Welcome to the Dixie Doggers podcast. We're here to share knowledge and heritage. We hope y'all enjoy. For the best cut gear in the business, get with Dave Williams at Southern Cross Cut Gear. www.hogdoggear.com.
If you're buying or selling land, farms, or hunting property, these folks know land. Phil Wilson with UC Hunting Properties, 678-791-3483.
777 Kennels, Advanced K9 Nutrition. Vertex K9 Essentials, Advanced K9 Nutrition, beneficial to all breeds. You can contact them at 979-206-3050.
And so I've been working on these dogs again, and we've been working on doing some genetic testing. As primitive as it is, what we can afford to do, and we participated on a study with the Marc Genetic Institute on these dogs, and so we've tried to move forward from there. So I don't know what all do you guys kind of want to get into? You want to get into the catching aspects of it,
we can just kick it off. Just basically what you're doing. Give us a rundown of who you are. And the dogs you have, what got you into it, why you do it, like you said, and basically carry us through the levels that you went through.
Okay, from when I was a young fellow up to date. Okay, all right.
So
well, I can do that. You
can just kick it off. You can just introduce yourself and take off with it.
Okay, all right. Well, I do well with people conversing back and forth with me.
I got you.
Okay, boss. All right. All righty. Well, when do you want to get? Were you ready now,
ready.
or what are we going to do?
We ready.
Okay.
Yeah, just go with it.
Okay. Well, my name is Bruce Huffmaster. We have Think About It Farms American Bulldogs, and I first got into dogs that I could remember at about 6 years old with my family, grandfathers, and my grandfather, and then my uncles and my father, and just pretty much been around them all my life. We used them on the ranches and farms. And primarily with the Bulldogs and stuff like that. Uncle Fred, I would go up there over the summers and work with him on row crops in Brooks County, Georgia, because I was really too small of a person to do watermelons and stuff like that and load trucks and things of that nature. So back then, the watermelons were weighing 80 pounds, old Charleston Grays and Jubilees and stuff like that.
That's right.
And so a different watermelon back then. And so I would go up there and he had, he kept hogs and stuff like that. He had, on his place, he kept between 3,000 and 5,000 domestic hogs in Brooks County, Georgia. His name was Fred Huffmaster. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I started working with the Bulldogs a whole lot right there. And he had 36-inch fences. And as a little boy, I mean, you could crawl across them and brood sows and everything else out through there. Now you had to be cautious when you're dealing with a dog and a brood sow and some pigs. They'll catch the dog, pull them in two.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we would go out through there and we would doctor, the hogs and do whatever we needed to do with them. And Uncle, he was a firm believer. He said Granddaddy had never done it and he wasn't going to do it. He was a firm believer in not having to pin a bunch of dogs up, but now you're talking about 40 years, 50 years ago, or a little better.
Yes.
And so there wasn't as many people running around back then as there is now, as much traffic on the highways and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, what we did. And I've caught with them, since I was little like that. And so in my first one, my mother told me I got her in 1968. She was what we called an old white English. And so that was my first one of my own. And I thought I had gotten big enough to be responsible for a dog. Now, this was down where I grew up in Fort Myers, Florida, Lee County.
Yes, sir.
And so I thought I got responsible enough just to have my own dog. Well, primarily what the deal was is they assigned me the dog because I was getting too far out in the pastures and things like that around the house for everybody to keep an eye on me. Back then you used to go do things. You didn't have to worry about folks, messing with kids or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the dog just was kind of assigned to me, and I took care of her and all that. But she was basically assigned to me to go with me because if something bad happened out there in the bushes, the dog was expendable and I wasn't.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's the way that went. And so I just kept moving forward with dogs. I had some old curs and a bird dog there, old Princess we called her. She didn't know she was a bird dog because she stayed with those old cur dogs all the time. And we had a small orange grove out front. And those old curs would get out there because the raccoons would just take all your oranges from you. And those curs would be out there, and every night they'd have 2 or 3 of them out there fighting with them. And she got where she would do it too. And they would actually crawl up in the limbs of those orange trees. I mean, climb the tree to try to get a hold of a raccoon, and which was pretty interesting. And yeah, so, but those dogs were different. They seemed to know when I was getting bigger and growing up. They came along with me as a small fella. And as I got older, I started looking for other stuff, like hogs or whatever else might be. And it just seemed like those dogs knew, and I don't know how, that what I was actually looking for when we would go off in the woods. And almost every time they'd come up with what I'd actually had in my mind to go out there and get. And I don't know how they knew that, you know.
Yes, sir.
And we just kept moving forward. And then it was back then, you had cowboys and stuff like that. They'd go to a bunch of cows, and you didn't work cows like they work them today with, trucks and feed sacks down home.
Yeah.
Those cows down there, they'd go to, you go to crowding them, they'd hunt you.
Man.
And yeah, and so I moved on up and helping move cows and stuff like that, and got involved, watching the big cur dogs work, the real dogs. And they used to say when I was young, they'd have a couple of guys that would come in on real rough cows that didn't want a bunch. And they'd come in with them old big red cur dogs, and they would put them out. And they said when they were done, you could put a chihuahua on a horse and go out there with him, let him bark in the woods, and the cows would automatically bunch.
Yeah,
That's getting it done right there.
Yeah, they gave them what we call up here some get right.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And so we did, that's what we did, and then, of course, now with the cow dogs and stuff like that, the old timers, now, if you really wanted to get in some trouble, get their cow dogs and take them off hog hunting and get them cut up. Now, that was a serious problem, Yeah, it was not acceptable. So as we got older, they took, up into our 14, 15, 16 years old, they made sure that we kept enough dogs around there that us boys could have something to go off and, hunt with and things of that nature, and not mess with our cow dogs. And we weren't going to mess with them anyway, because after the first time or two, it became apparent it was a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. So so they got us some dogs and stuff like that. And when we were done, we could go, on the places and go hunting and fishing, do whatever we wanted to do. And so I'm getting up in there to being, I don't know, 18 to 20 years old. And I wound up with a pair of dogs. I moved to South Georgia to Brown Knuckle Fred up there. And Granddaddy Huffmaster was still down there in Lee County. I'm in North Florida right now.
Okay.
Well, I've had that since 97. And so Uncle Julian, the cows, he had registered Angus cows. And back then an Angus cow was a small cow. Now they got great big cows for Angus cows. Look like a Brangus used to. And they took in those puppies. They got up there about, 16 weeks old or so, and they'd throw scraps over the fence, and the cows would come to the fence to get the scraps. And the puppies actually started catching his cows at that age, tame cows.
Okay.
All right. And so he wasn't having that, and he was going to do away with the dogs. And Granddaddy got them, and him and my grandmother Wheeler, Granddaddy Huffmaster got them, and my grandmother Wheeler and my sister. They brought him up there to Brooks County where I was for me, and out of that deal, we named one sissy. She looked like a game bred Brindle. Well, she was kind of big for that, but she looked like a Brindle pit bull. And her brother was a big red cur dog, and so I took and I started messing with them up there with the hogs and things like that, and got them catching and things like that. And it just didn't work out for me to stay in Brooks County, Georgia, so I went back to Southwest Florida. And then, I knew a bunch of people at the ranches and things down there. And I started, doing hog hunting down there with them. And we would take and I worked for the county, $150 a week back then. And so we weren't making a lot of money. And so we would take and us boys would get together and we'd go hunting. And what we had run it up with was a man by the name of Mr. Ellison. And he lived up in Perry, Florida, and Mr. Christmas, which lived over in I got to get rid of this.
No, you're good.
You still there?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Uh, uh, so we would take, and they were supplying hunt clubs up in Pennsylvania with boar hogs to shoot. And so what we would do is we'd trap with what we could, and then we would take and we would, oh, daggone, this call's coming back again. I'm so sorry, sir.
No, you're good. It ain't no big deal.
Okay, and that's Miss Loretta right there, and I'll call her back when we get done. But we would take, and they would give us $50 for every inch of tusk that was in boar hog's head.
And you were making $150 a week working.
Yes. So
yeah.
Yeah. Things are getting, now you see the way the picture went, it started rolling there.
Yes, sir. Time to go get some hogs.
Yeah. And we did. And so, we could take them to Mr. Christmas anytime, but most of the time, Mr. Ellison was subject to pay just a little bit better, over time. And so we took, and we mostly bring them on to the house, but any boar hog that was under what we estimated under 100 pounds, we would castrate him, bob his tail, and turn him loose. We leave enough tail on him so he could keep the flies away from his bum hole and everything. And we would turn him loose. And then, the sows, unless it was a barren sow that we caught, which we didn't get, there wasn't a whole lot of those come through. But a barren sow, she never had pigs, up there weigh 140, 50 pounds. We'd put her in the truck and keep her. But we'd turn the rest of the sows loose. And so anything over 100 pounds with a boar hog or a bar hog that had already been caught, which I guess the correct term is bar-o, but we call them bars. And so we took, and we'd bring them onto the house, and like the good eating hogs we would keep, and we would eat with the family and stuff like that. But the other stuff, the boar hogs, we would, an inch of tooth is not much tooth in a hog. So we would put them off in the pens, and Mr. Ellison would come through, and he'd pay us, and we'd load them all up on the truck there, on the trailer, and he would take off with them, headed to Pennsylvania. And I guess they didn't take a long time to come out of Southwest Florida, and sometimes being dumped in the snow up there in Pennsylvania, 72 hours later or something. I don't know how long it took him to get them there, but it was, not long.
Yeah.
And so he was getting paid for those folks up there coming out of the cities to kill them hog. And so that's what happened there. And everything.
I've heard tell of that from a few people about these hogs going to Pennsylvania. Especially back in the 70s and 80s. It's hard for me to believe that there's not some type of population there. I know most of them were, I'm sure they were in a fence, of course, some type of fence operation, but it's like, did somebody breed them, or keep a breeding, some type of selection?
I don't know. Everything we sent up there was males, boar hogs, so we wasn't sending any sows with them.
I got you. I was just always curious of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think about it. If anybody had tame hogs up there and they got out, it don't take a long time for a hog to go back and go wild.
No, sir, not at all.
And there was one night we took, and a boy called us, and he was up there off of Williams Road, and he said, I went to high school with him, and he said, Bruce, can you come up here and catch this boar hog? He's out there, and he's pushing the calves to feed him. It was a dairy, and he was pushing the calves all around it. He was feeding out there in the troughs and taking the feed from them. So I said, yeah, we'll come up there and catch him. Just call us when you see him coming across the field up there, because it was big open pastures with a dairy and stuff up there, just little ribbons of woods running through it. And so he called me and said he's coming across the field. And so myself and a buddy, we jumped in Jeff Van Darvis, who it was, and we grabbed 3 dogs and we took off up there to catch this boar hog. And he said, and the boy had told me, he said, this hog will probably weigh 400 pounds. And, of course, nothing's ever as big as anybody thinks it is, right?
Yeah.
But don't pay attention like we didn't. And we went up there, and I said, where is he? And he said, he's standing right there, because it was getting toward dark. And I looked, and all I could see was the big, dairy calves in there. I mean, I'm stuffed up, belt high and everything. He goes, there he is right there. And he said, see the Darwin, ain't nothing else dark here. And I said, yeah, I got it, buddy. I see him right there. That's the hog. And he said, yep. And I said, okay. And Jeff looked at me and I looked at Jeff and I said, well, we might have came a little light, but we'll try him. And so we put a big red cur off that I had by the name of Joker, which is the best dog I've ever had in my hands. I've never had anything else that was anywhere close to him in my whole life. And a dog named Buck. And I think, I don't know what that other, it was Minnie Pearl. We had Minnie Pearl there. We put her off and we sent them to them. Well, the hog broke to go. And they had built a brand new hog wire fence down through there. Some people call it page wire. I mean, but it's got the squares in it get smaller toward the bottom.
Yes, sir.
And he ran through that. Those dogs caught him. Buck was a nose dog. He caught him in the end of the nose, and the other two had him by the ear. And that hog ran through a brand new, I mean, within a year or so. This is a pretty new fence. He ran through that fence, and the only thing holding the fence together when he ran through it, carried them dogs through, was the top square.
There you go.
They busted that fence wide open and got out there in the field on the other side, and they stopped him. And so Jeff and I got in there and caught him, got him laid down. And we was talking about tame hogs. We got to looking at him, and Jeff looked at me. I was looking at Jeff. I said, Jeff, this is somebody's hog. He said, well, I believe it is too. He said, but he sure don't act like it. He acts wild as he can be. So we got him tied, got him loaded on the pickup, and took him back and put him in the pen. Well, 4 or 5 days later, he was tame again, eating feed and everything. And so we named the hog Hector. Well, somebody did. Anyway, the hog's name became Hector. Now, we took him down there to where we primarily hunted at. We had 42,000 acres down there at Turner Corporation, and that we were hunting on at this time. And they had a barn there, a horse barn and all that, and the cow dog pens were behind the barn. And so we took Hector down there, and we were going to breed the wild hogs up, put some good blood in them. So we turned him out there at the barn. And the wild hogs come up there at nighttime anyway. They'd root right there at the dog pens and throw dirt up in there where the cow dogs was. I guess they just aggravating them. I don't know why the hogs did all that, but other than that, they were around there picking up, horse feed that had fallen and things of that nature.
Yes.
And so the cowboys there, they said, boys, that hog won't make it for anything in the world. These wild boar hogs going to kill him. And we said, well, we'll see. And so we turned him out. And the moral of the story is you could ride out through there. It was 320 acre paddocks or half sections, the way it was set up. And it was this was a 13,000 acre tract right in there. And so where the headquarters was, where everybody lived and all that. And so it had basically a circle that ran through it. And it was about, I don't know, I'd say that thing was 60 foot wide. And what would happen, there was wings on running out into every 320 acre field. Or it was talking about, wasn't all field. It was something that had woods in it for the cows to get shade and stuff like that. And so when you went to pen them, you could drive them into, and it had a funnel. All of them had a funnel, so a half section of cows would come out there, and you could put them in that laneway and drive them back to the main pens to work on set of commercial cow pens up there. And so we'd ride out through there at nighttime. Sometimes we weren't really hunting. We'd have some dogs with us, and we would ride around. We'd just use a Q-beam, and dogs would watch the Q-beam and everything else. And Hector would be out there in the field, and he had 40, 50 sows with him. And you could look, and the outlying hogs were the boar hogs, the wild boar hogs that were staying on there. So the cowboys was wrong. Hector prevailed. And yeah. And the ranch, they just kept feed up there at the barn for him. They'd bust 50-pound bags there and just leave it for him, and he'd come up inside the barn and eat.
So what do you reckon Hector weighed?
I'd say Hector, when we caught him that evening, because being up with Uncle Fred dealing with brood sows and stuff like that, I'd say Hector probably weighed, when we caught him that evening, around 400.
Well, that's a big hog.
Yeah. It was a big hog. But we were on, now you understand, we wasn't up in nothing thick with him either. We was on a manicured dairy.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. Yeah.
yeah. A whole bunch of difference. Yeah. And so anyway, we did that, and we thought it was funny. People sometimes would ride with us that had never been on an operation like that. Now I think they call it agro-tourism. All right. but we would take them out there and we'd find Hector out there in the field with them. And Crocodile Dundee was the big thing back then, where he mesmerized the water buffalo and it laid down.
Yeah.
And so we could sneak out, and we'd sneak out there to Hector, and we'd show him. We'd tell these people, okay, this is how you really catch a hog. Of course, Hector at this point was still tame as a dog. He knew people. He loved people at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of us would hold a light, and the other one would get out there and go around the shadow, make a big production out of it. And we'd get up there to Hector, and we'd start scratching. If you scratch him on his nuts back there,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was the end of it, buddy. He'd go to grunting and lay right over.
That's it.
Yeah. And then it was done, But anyway, we just did stuff like that as a gag. And I think he got over in a tomato field off the ranch, and some workers over there shot him in the field over there. But
Dang.
they didn't know what he was. They just saw a big hog and killed him is what happened.
Yeah.
But and everything. But yeah, man, that's the kind of stuff we did. And we I hear people talk about, to get to kind of a different type subject on the deal. I hear people talking about all these blackmouth Florida curs and everything. And I grew up, and there's dogs around there everywhere, cur dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a tan dog that would be around, or a light yellow potentially. Okay. And of course, they'd have the black mouths. And then we had the red ones. But this is and I know that some guys that have tested what they consider the blackmouth Florida curs down here now, and they're coming up with all different kinds of breeds in them, which is not uncommon for any dog you're going to test, to be honest with you.
Yes, sir.
And so, but what was different to me once the testing came in and the dogs, and I kept hearing about all this when I was young, if something came through and the dogs got wiped out or whatever happened, the old timers would most of the time they would take a red bone hound bitch, and they would put a white English male, there over.
Mm-hmm.
And then them puppies that came off would be red. And that's what they started back out with cur dogs. And if they weren't quite gritty enough for them, the old timers used to tell us that 60% of everything came out of your females.
Yeah.
And the rest of it was the male. So if they weren't gritty enough, then they would put a red bone male over a bulldog bitch, and then they'd start back off breeding them dogs back and forth together, and that's what they called curs again.
Okay.
And so now I don't know how widespread that was, because I mean back then if you went 50 miles from where you lived at when that was going on, you'd made a journey for the day, because I mean
yeah.
I mean, you didn't go very far back then. I mean, we didn't know there was no pagers or anything, and we had telephone party lines on the telephone. I don't know if y'all had those in Alabama or not.
Yeah, when I was younger, we did. You'd have to wait for somebody to get off of the line, so you could use it.
Yes. And if you had an emergency, you pick up and you tell them, "Look, I'm sorry, I got to get help."
Yes.
And they would hang up and everything. And hell, most of them would be there in just a short order if you told them that too.
That's right. I'm probably the last generation. I'm 47, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably the last generation that had any dealings with that, I imagine.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Quick thanks to the supporters of the Dixie Doggers podcast.
Light Hounds,
Southern Cross Cut Gear,
Phil Wilson with UC Hunting Properties,
Rankin Ranch 38 Cattle Company,
777 Kennels Advanced Canine Nutrition,
and the old Boars N Broads.
I got you. Because most of my hog hunting as an adult, the heavy portion of it, I did all that before cell phones came in. You might get lucky and have a Motorola radio in one of the ranch trucks or something
Mm-hmm.
that you could call back and talk to somebody on. But most of the time you didn't have anything. It was you was on your own out there. And so we'd always try to, have a couple of people together, but that didn't always work out either. Sometimes you had to do stuff by yourself, and whether you had to get a cow tied or, pull calves or whatever you had to do to get, keep her from, if she was getting down having a calf and couldn't do it, you stopped and pulled it then, or, you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't leave her to die, And some of those fields, I mean, there wasn't like most of that stuff down there now has got pretty good grades built to it. But back then, what would happen is those folks were taking and they were clearing what we called new ground. They'd cut the pine trees or do whatever, clear up the palmettos, and they'd bring put V ditches and rim canals on them, and then they would plant watermelons in there on what they call new ground, and then they would just keep. And then once the watermelons were done, they'd put off in there, bahia grass and stuff like that. And then we would hunt those fields and stuff like that, keeping the hogs out of the grass and things of that nature. And so that's how all that went down. And also, I don't know if y'all have ever done it, but, if commercial cattle down there, lightning bolt kill one or whatever and wind up killing a cow, or she died, couldn't have a calf and nobody was there and she died. Those are things we would go to, and we would mark those cows and would start to look for them, keep looking for them. When those cows bloated, the wild hogs just couldn't stay away from them. Really? And you'd come to a bloated cow, so with her legs sticking up in the air and stuff like that. Yeah. And looked like she was on the ground kicking. It'd be any number of wild hogs standing around her, from 10 or 15 up to 30 or 40.
Wow.
And when I say 30 or 40 now, when I start counting hogs, we kind of hit that 100-pound mark. That kind of counted. We weren't counting little shoats and pigs and things like that.
Yeah. You talking actual pig? Yeah, actual hogs. Yeah.
Yeah, actual hogs. Yeah. And we had one big trap set on the place there at Turner Corporation, and we one side of it you could turn the hogs over in there, and we had it for a feed out area. And when you got hogs in something like that, and we'd reset the trap, and hogs beget hogs. Those wild hogs would smell them up there where we were finishing those pigs at that we wanted to kill for some of them for ourselves. And they'd come up there and they'd keep getting in the trap right next to them. And then we would take and work those hogs in there and take the bigger hogs out to sell, and then, or castrate the smaller ones and bob their tails and turn them out, or if it's sows, just turn them out of there. And, we wound up on some of those traps. The sows got turned out so much they wouldn't even leave the trap. You almost had to quit trapping right there because they just stayed. Yeah,
they knew what the deal was. They knew the routine.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
They're smart individuals, Of course, that.
Hog is a smart creature, and we took and we ran dogs, and I see a lot of this stuff I'm looking at on TV anymore. It's a lot different than what we used to do. We tied hogs. We didn't, most time didn't kill hogs unless things had went real bad and the dogs was cut down. Because early on, the only thing you had on a dog when you took him out there was a collar. And then as time came on past, we went into putting cut collars on them, 3.5, 4 inches wide around their necks. And then Jimmy Ellison and I, we worked on it. Now Jimmy's the one that figured it out now down there in Fort Myers. And we came up with a vest, or he did. The stuff I helped him work on, the dog couldn't hardly move in it when we were trying to figure it out, because we got where we getting them cut up pretty bad. And so we finally wound up settling in, or he figured a dump truck inner tube, because he was a heavy equipment fella. And he took that dump truck inner tube, and we used 1,120 radial dump truck inner tubes.
Oh my goodness!
Bolted it into the cut collar. And and then brought it down and had it, came back covered back to about the back edge of his rib cage. And each one was custom made, because you start your holes and you'd put the dog's legs through it, and you would, even in the woods, once you did get to where you had it on the dog, after he was out there moving for a half hour, 45 minutes, you would stop on a dog that you had just built a fresh vest for, and you would check it. And of course, we would trace vests too for dogs, and that was very helpful if we wasn't tore up too bad. But it would rub them. If you didn't do that, they'd get rubbed raw on the inside of their legs there toward their chest.
Yes, sir.
And we used finishing washers out of automotive finishing washers. They're kind of got a concave and they're smooth.
Oh yeah.
And we put them in there so that when that would rub back and forth on the dog, it wouldn't be rubbing the hair off and rubbing sores on him and things like that. And we would, just anything that had a buckle and that you could put on there, an old collar that was wore out or belt or whatever, you'd bolt that in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the dogs, the whole thing weighed, I don't know, about 3.5 pounds. And what was happening with that deal, it wasn't stopping the hogs from cutting. What was happening, it took us a while to figure it out, but it was actually fooling the hogs. And when a hog, had been up against something and he had 1.5 inches, 2 inches of teeth, he'd cut stuff before that bothered him out there in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was happening when they would hit with that touch, it would pop through that rubber. But when the hog felt it go through that rubber, we got to watching them, and when it went through that rubber, and as soon as that tooth popped through that rubber, that hog he'd cut out. He thought he was inside the animal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that was doing, it was psychological on those hogs, because they had never been up against anything artificial, in any type of fight like that.
So the hog felt like it was going through doing its job, and so he's like, okay, well, I can go ahead and pull that, cut out.
I can rip him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And so instead of going deeper into the actual skin and the flesh, he was on the outside, basically a fake flesh is what you made.
That's the way it was.
That's pretty cool there.
Yeah. Now, we didn't intend for it to be like that, but that's what it wound up being.
Well, if it worked?
It works.
Yeah. What year would you say this was?
It would have been in about 80, I don't know, 83, 82, 83,
Okay.
something like that.
I got you. Early 80s. I got you.
Yeah. And so that's what we did, and we looked into patenting that thing, but back then it was $20,000 for a patent is what it was going to take to get it through, and that was like, wow, okay. And of course we didn't have that kind of money, and then of course everybody around us telling us, if y'all do get that kind of money up, nobody's ever going to buy that thing in the first place.
Yeah.
And so the moral of the story is, we fast forward to today, and we got Kevlar and all kinds of stuff that folks are buying.
That's exactly right. There's more stuff on cut gear now than I ever would have dreamed of seeing.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I see some of it out there, and it's like, wow. And but what I'm looking at on a lot of it, it looks like it would be awful heavy and be awful hot. See, what saved us a whole lot was down in South Florida. It's flat, okay. And we're talking about 40 years ago. I'm 63 now. 40 something years ago, it stayed flooded 6-7 months out of the year. I mean, when I say flooded, it'd be anywhere from water pushing out of the ground to, might be crotch deep. But, it was always water, and you could follow that, and it was never without water. You could follow that water down to along those big heads and creeks and swamps and stuff like that. And so the dogs was always could find them 6-8 inches of water to get over there and splash through, which is that's what kind of where, and that's where the hogs are going to be. If it's hot, they're going to be down there at that water.
That's right.
And so that's where what we did, and so we did, and they could swim in it too. That was the thing we were concerned about. The main thing, and they could swim in it without any problem, and they moved well in it. Some of that stuff I'm seeing don't look like a dog could really move real well in it out there.
There have been what I would say, like, cycles of it. In the early 2000s, some of the cut gear, like you said, extremely heavy, really, really hot. Mobility was a huge factor. Then it got to where, it started evolving. And for a long time, like, we didn't really run much cut gear at all. I'll be honest with you. We tried. And like you said, we made most of our own stuff because it worked better for us. Well, here in the past few years, we have teamed up with a couple of different guys like Southern Cross. We've teamed up with Dave, and his products they're super lightweight, and they've got Kevlar. They are so tough and durable. It really blows your mind. When I first looked at them, I had the same exact thing. I said, these are going to be too hot and too heavy. Let me tell you, it's not. They're breathable. The dog can move in them. It's, for the style that we use. Now, keep in mind, we don't use just a specific walk-in big catch dog with,
We didn't either.
with cut gear from his ears to his tail, and that's
Right.
perfectly fine. But we don't.
Right.
And so therefore, a lot of the gear that we use, it's really covering just the bare minimum. You know. But it covers the vitals and everything. And we haven't had any issues in the past, what I'd say 5 to 8 years. The last 5 years have really, really been good.
They've come out with a couple new types of Kevlar.
Yeah, it's very breathable.
It's very nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, we haven't had any heat strokes and stuff like that from being vested or getting too hot and not being able to, and swimming. They actually swim pretty dead-gum good in these vests. Now they have some of these that offer flotation.
Oh, really? I did not know that. Yeah,
yeah, it's wild, man. Some of this stuff is it can get outrageous too.
Yeah. Well, you was talking about that you didn't run a specific catch dog. Well, see, we didn't do that either, and I get a lot of heat over this when I tell people this, but. Back in the day, dogs were tools to be used.
Mm-hmm.
They were basically livestock when you're on the ranches and farms and stuff like that.
They were dispensable.
If it became to it, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those deals where it's not, you didn't want that to happen, but that's right. That's the way it was.
Exactly. So, in today's world, if you behave that way with them, without a huge need for that to happen, and they put you in jail, and what I'm seeing because of that though, and I love a dog to death, or I wouldn't be messing with them like I am still today at 63 years old. But what I think I'm seeing is dogs getting softer through the years,
yes.
And I think it's because of the fact them old timers, they were forged in fire, and if those dogs live 7, 8 years, they pulled a good long life.
Oh, without a doubt. It's I look at myself now and some of the dogs we have, and I talk about it. I'm like, well, these dogs are 10, 11, 12 years old, like dadgum. But also, after they hit that certain age where I can see they're starting to kind of fall off a little bit and get a little slower and stuff, I kind of retire them. Like I said, the dogs, I don't let mine don't get to wear a vest until they know what the real deal is.
Right.
If they don't know that it hurts them, then they have this false sense of, oh, I'm Superman, and then they go in there and get shit wrecked, and then they quit.
Yeah, they're in shock. Yeah, backing up. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, this is the deal. What we would do, we didn't put our bulldogs now. I mean, them bulldogs went right with those cur dogs now. Now I only ever kept, I kept Sheba, Little Red, and I think there was another one there. But anyway, that's the only 2 curs I ever kept. Now, but they were Johnny on the spot. No, Patty would catch. But they would run the hair off one now. Okay, and but they wouldn't catch. They might catch you a little pig or something that run by, but they wasn't fixing to grab on not a sow or shoulder or nothing. They were there to fight. I mean, stop him and fight him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept them because I actually saw those 2 dogs. Now, these dogs were never together. These dogs were separated from each other, so they never even was in the same set of pens together. Okay. And what I saw both those dogs do that caught my attention, and Little Red was the one that I saw do it first. And she was really mean. You could not. I mean, if she was out there in the woods, everybody that we was hunting with knew I put her on the ground. If we get separated from her, if you see her and she's out there somewhere else, mark where you last saw her and don't try to get her because she would load up on you. Okay.
Okay.
And but everybody knew that, and it was a different world back then.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be safe with that today. Even if somebody messed with her and shouldn't have messed with her, and then she bit them, then they were just going to say, "Well, damn, you told me not to bother her." You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And but today's the world's not that way. But I actually saw down there they'd be up in the ciphers. Sometimes you'd get an open area in the ciphers, and those dogs go to swimming. And I don't know. I still can't prove what those dogs were doing. Okay, but Little Red and Sheba both did the same thing, and I saw the same results on dogs years apart. And they would go into that water, and when they started swimming, they would lick. left, center, right, right, center, left, and they keep moving. And I thought the dogs were just drinking while they were on the move, right?
They using that scent.
They getting that. I think they were. I believe.
Yes.
Now I cannot prove. I think they were tasting the hog in the water.
Let me tell you something that's gonna really blow your mind, Bruce. I had a bulldog, little game stock dog. Her name was Lily, and she was just all around she's the smartest one I ever had of anything. I said, I wonder if she can do a blind retrieve like these big dollar duck dogs. Because we had been putting her through the paces, man. We've been going to events and shows and putting on demonstrations for people. Well, I took that dog, and there was Nathan sitting right here. He was just a youngin'. And I told him, I said, go get her. So, all right, I shot a duck. Duck was 175 yards out there, and actually was floating across the little pond. And I sent her toward it. And when she got out there, she was good with hand signals. And I was watching her. She was licking, just like you're talking about. She quit looking at me, and she found that duck. And in my mind, I replayed that all them years. I said, what was she doing? I said, it's almost like she was tasting where it was at. And that son of a gun, that's exactly what them dogs was doing. I would lay anything on it's what they was doing.
Well, that's the only thing I could come up with, because the scent wouldn't have been that heavy out there with the water splashing and everything.
Not a bit.
Yeah,
and when they it'd be way less scent than a duck that was injured.
Right.
Because this didn't have nothing going for it, really. You know what I mean? And when you got something that's injured, it's going to put off a whole different pheromone, and it has more to track like that. When it's not injured, then there's nowhere near as much.
Exactly. And I'm going to tell you, it never failed. When they came out the other side and hit the bank on the other side, they were dead on them tracks and then hammering down.
That's pretty cool.
But I only ever had them two do it in all my life. And those two dogs were separated. They weren't even alive at the same time.
Yeah.
And everything. But I saw that happen. Sometimes, you just luck up and find something like that. But what I was going to, with all that being said, our bulldogs, Uncle Fred on them tame hogs, he had never kept them pinned up and stuff up there. Granddaddy never kept them pinned up. It's according to Uncle Fred. Now, Granddaddy he would help me with dogs and stuff like that, but he had moved down to South Florida where I grew up, and he was working for the water plant and things like that, and he worked night shift for forever. I mean, as long as he worked there, I believe. But anyway, he would help us, and he was a sharecropper and everything originally, and so he had a lot of background with animals, and that's what we did with 4-H and all that. But because nobody ever pinned any dogs up, we took and the bulldogs went right with the cur dogs, and so. And what would happen that you take young bulldogs, we'd take them just as soon as we thought they could keep up, man. I'm telling you, monkey see, monkey do. You got dogs that know how to do it. You put a dog with them, they will be doing it in short order. All right, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I
agree.
And so that you take and put those bulldogs out there. They grew up with following those older cur dogs like that, and they would get in there, and those dogs would do what we call carousel. And I went at the end there before I got left South Florida and everything, and I had 13 of them that would, and I could keep about 5 going at the time that wasn't too cut up to put on the ground. And they would get in there, and bulldogs, cur dogs, all of it together. And when they'd go to a hog, if they had, because they got where it was hard to get them. After a while, it was hard since we was turning all those sows loose all the time. You could tell one to catch a sow, and they'd definitely do it. But you could pretty much bet they was going to be hunting boar hogs, which a boar hog going to stop first anyway, or a big bar hog. But we didn't we got where we wasn't catching very many sows with them, and there was plenty of sows there. But you'd get in there, and I think you guys, you talk. I think y'all are up there. You got peanut fields. I don't know how far up in Alabama y'all are.
We're up toward. We're more in the northern section.
You got up there toward the foothills and stuff.
That's where we're at, right where they start. We're above Tuscaloosa. We're just a touch northwest of Birmingham.
I got you. Yeah. So yeah, y'all got a bunch of different. And I've looked at it off the highways going through Alabama. I never
Mhm.
passed through it several times. I've never spent a lot of time in Alabama, but I could see where start getting up those hills and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's pretty wooded. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how rough it is with understory vegetation going up through there, because I would think it's pretty rough, like up North Florida is right here with understory. Um,
Yeah.
where we are right here, we live inside the Apalachicola National Forest now.
Okay.
And I've been here. Yeah, I've been here. Katrina and I lived here since February of 2001, and so we're actually inside the forest by about 6 miles.
I got you.
And there's 565,000 acres in this forest right
Ooh,
here.
that's a lot of dirt.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's it's in big blocks and stuff. The logging industry over years and years ago, but you got the big drainages. You got the Apalachicola River draining down through there, and that big river bottom, and you got the Ocklawaha, which is about a quarter mile maybe a little over a quarter mile from where I'm sitting at, down to the edge of the river right there. But that in there and along those river bottoms, it's nice and open. It's good, easy moving, right?
Yes, sir.
But with time where these pines and short palmettos end,
Mhm.
going into that transition zone along those rivers, that is some of the most biblically rough stuff you'll ever hit in your life now. And right where the big boar hog or big hog's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
go. That's where he's headed to,
So
right there.
y'all's underbrush and stuff like that. Is it like the gallberries and stuff?
Well, we got gallberry, but we got a lot of tie
Tie
and
tie. That's the other one I was thinking.
Yeah.
We go to a place called Fargo.
oh yeah,
It's
I had family hunted bears over there years and years ago when I was a little boy. Yeah.
yeah. We just visited a bear camp down there a couple of weekends ago, and we have a friend that lives down there. Well, he's got a camp down there. Actually, we've got several friends down there now. We didn't realize how many people we knew that were in that area until we started
Uh-huh.
going down there. But like you said, those tie vines they are horrible.
No, they are, buddy. Yep.
And when it's all mixed together, you can't move, and you're
Yeah.
crawling, and it's
Yep.
water.
Oh yeah. Yes.
It's yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
If you
tough.
don't get below it, you're not going. You'll bleed to death trying to get
Yes,
through it.
you will, or you'll
Uh,
just get so tangled up you just can't move. I mean, like
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh
you're
yeah.
stopped.
Because you got all them briars and everything, and different areas. The little sun's coming down in there. It gets
Mhm.
really really bad. But now where I was doing where I was handling all the catching, just there's no limit to the hogs really that you can catch. Okay, just when you physically, how many can you catch in a day? Most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And but that's Southwest Florida, But now we have big flag ponds, cow pastures, farm fields, cypress, even the palmettos and stuff down there. They get up about waist high. Most of it would be, but you can push through palmetto pretty easy. And then we would get into some gooseneck palmettos. Now, when you got into the gooseneck palmettos, you know what a gooseneck palmetto is?
No, I was fixing to ask you what's the difference in that?
Okay, all right. Well, they'll things will get up there. They'll get 20, 25 foot tall.
Oh
A
man.
palmetto's nothing but a palm tree anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But when you get into those gooseneck palmettos now, when you bust through the edge of them, get in there, you can see, but there's just roots laying everywhere. All right. I mean, but you can see through it and stuff. And so we moral of the story is I wasn't hunting terrain that was near as rough as what I think you guys up in there are hunting and what there is right here where I'm living at now.
Yes.
And that makes a big difference, turning over the number of hogs I'm telling people that we did, because,
It does.
I mean, and there's been several times in my life where you have 5 dogs on the ground, and when you get there, you have 5 hogs stopped.
Mm.
And when you tell them to catch, you got 5 dogs holding.
Yeah, we never run into any of that. There's just, over the years, there's been a few times, but it's been few and far between. One of the issues that we run into here is they made it a law several years ago. You have to kill everything, no matter what, upon capture. So the population is not huge. It never has been a lot of hogs, where we live at, but there's some. But I will say that it's a lot harder to hunt than other places I've been, to find the hog in general. But at the same time, if you get you a dog that can go out and strike a track here, it's not going to have any problems anywhere else. You know what I mean? So it makes a good dog as well. But the terrain, like you said, the terrain makes a huge difference on sealing the deal that I have found. Finding the hogs, I got dogs myself that'll find them about anywhere you go, but sealing the deal, that's a little different thing. I got a buddy right now in South Texas, and not just him, but there's several guys down there, and them boys, they run across a ton of hogs. They have high fence operations as well. They guide hunts left and right. Their biggest issue that they run into is catch dogs, being able to catch, because it's so thick by the time the catch dog gets there, the hog's breaking. You know what I mean?
Well,
So,
and see, down there where we were, of course, again, I think it had a lot to do with the terrain. Okay. I'm not saying these dogs, I'm telling you how they were operating where I was using them. Now, how they would operate in a different, in a hill country or something else.
That's right.
I'm sure they would try to do the same thing, but I'm not sure they could do it. Is that making sense?
Yes, sir. Makes perfect. I understand. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So what they would do, like I was telling you, they'd get nose to tail all in one direction, and they'd be just trotting around in a carousel on a big hog. All right. And they half the time they'd have him sitting on the ground when you got to him, okay? Because they done been biting him in the nuts so much. The only way he could protect it was he sat down, okay? And they were just moving around him. And what would happen is it was usually myself. There was several of us, but the trio was usually myself, Jeff Pendarvis, and Joe McGee. All right. We just stuck together like, glue, and had great times. And so we'd get there, and I see so many people getting so many dogs killed anymore. And I struggle with that because we really got very few dogs killed. I mean, over time, I mean, graveyard dead right in front of me. I don't believe I've seen more than 6 of them bite the dust in my whole life.
Man.
Now down there, up here, I didn't do as much of it, but I hear these people, and they come out and they put out there. It seems like every 2 or 3 weeks they getting a dog killed, and I just I don't know their conditions, but I just don't. I struggle to understand that, because these dogs would sit there and they'd be working when you got there. I mean, we'd get up to the site and run up to the site, and we would look at it, and we'd get in position. And when we told those dogs to catch, there was no hesitation in our minds, because as soon as the word catch came out of our mouths, we moved on that hog, and because them dogs wasn't going to be waiting, they was going to have him. Okay. And so when you can operate that with a pack of dogs that you're hunting Saturday, all day Saturday, half a day Sunday, Friday night, and Wednesday night, and you're doing that all the time, you're living with them. They become very, very, you become just a unit that's moving together. And so when they would hit a big hog like that, we really didn't have much time to get a dog killed. Now it don't take long to cut a bunch of dogs up. Now just have a little slip up, but
that's right.
Somebody grab a leg if it was a big hog, pull back on him. The other one go up there and put the shoulder into the side, grab the offset leg on the other side of him on the front, and jerk it out from under him, and down he went. Now the biggest thing we had to think of was, okay, we're looking at the dog's holding and helping us right there. Now you got to make the decision which dog is more valuable. And our motto was, you always throw the hogs back toward the dogs that was the most valuable dogs to you, because you're pushing them away from his head and pushing them back as he goes down. Okay. And the dogs that's on the other side, as he's going down on the, they're coming across the top of the hog's head. Is this making sense to you?
Yes, sir.
And so what you wind up with is he's slinging that head, and he stabs one out there on the front. Everything's moving. You know how fast it moves.
Oh yeah.
And then you take a dog. The hog got his mouth open. The dog stick his leg right down in there, and the damn hog break his ankle or something. And so anyway, those bulldogs though did not catch. They stayed right there just like the cur dogs did. There's a main difference between those bulldogs and those curs was a cur take a little bit longer track. Now I really only wanted a dog that would take a 30-minute track.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We didn't have four-wheelers or any of that crap. It's just how good your four-wheel drive was getting up in there. Now, you might go back and get a farm tractor or something and come back in there and get a little further, potentially, or get a horse and come in there and drag him out. But we didn't go through all that trouble. Damn, if he was that much trouble, we'd cut him, bob his tail, and turn him loose, catch him somewhere on high ground where we could get to him.
That's right.
But and I get a lot of blowback on this about these bulldogs that, okay, those dogs, they weren't good bulldogs because they wouldn't catch when they got there. And I hear these boys, and I've been told this a number of times for people looking for catch dogs when they call here. And they ask me, do you have something that when we turn it out, when it gets there, it's either going to be holding or dead when we get there? And I said, well, and my theory on that is I hope not. Okay. Because this is what I think, and like you said, it's each your own and things of that nature. But if a dog don't have sense enough, if his humans ain't around, okay, he needs to have sense enough. If he gets away from you and gets down in there half, 3/4 of a mile, like you talking about him breaking.
That's right.
And people can't get to him. He don't need to be hung to that to a you and I. Well, I used to be for us a 200 to 300 pound wild hog was a big hog.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was a big hog. And so anyway, the moral of the story is you wanted a dog that if he went in there, if it got away and they broke on you like that, you go on in there, that he's not down there holding him, just getting cut to death for no reason. You wanted the dog to say, well, damn, ain't nobody around here. Let's back up here and wait for the cavalry to show up.
Some self-preservation.
Exactly. But those same dogs, and the dogs I saw get killed right in front of me was mostly human error, okay, where something got sideways in there and the dog saw there was a problem and the dog just closed the gap.
Yeah.
And gave himself.
That's right.
Now I don't know if he was thinking he was going to give himself when he did it or not, when they did it or not, but
that's what it worked out.
Exactly.
Well, those dogs like that, I mean, and like you said, you came from a whole different era, and I've talked to other guys that's between my age and your age, and it seemed like that's one thing that most of us had in common is like we love a good hard dog. We want a dog that's hard and tough, but if you have a dog that will wait to make a move, I would take that dog over a kamikaze lunatic all day, every day.
That's me too.
I'll take it. He can be a little softer dog and have more sense. And I will take that dog over a lunatic every day because he's going to live longer, number one. He's not going to put you in a bad bind. He's going to listen. Right. He's going to pick his shot. And when you tell him to catch it, he's going to catch it and hold it. That's to me, that's all. That's what you need. A lot of, like you said, I don't know, man, probably 8 to 10 years ago and up to about 5 years ago, there was this really big fad of everybody had to have just cur dogs that would catch. Mm-hmm. They wanted a one dog cur dog, one out cur dog. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I've seen those and I've had a few of them. But at the same time, it's like, if I've got 5 dogs, I can sure make this a lot easier on old Jake over here, or old Jimbo. I don't have to get him killed,
Yeah, common sense. Mm-hmm. Common sense. I tell you, I was down there in Mockley. I mean, to your point on that deal right there, and I had that big cur I had. I mean, Joker was his name, and he had. Let's see, he had dew claws on all 4 legs. He had a fixed one on all 4 legs and a floating one on all 4 legs. So he had 2 dew claws, a fixed and a floating one on all 4 legs. So I don't even that's the one that came up there that Granddaddy got from Uncle Julian and brought up there because Uncle Julian was going to kill him for catching the cows, right?
Yes.
and he is the best dog I ever had. I mean, I truly don't know what he really was. I mean, he looked like a big old red cur dog, but those toes on him right there, and old timers would tell you, okay, but a double dew-clawed dog like that, boy, a rattlesnake can't kill him. Well, I wouldn't taste that theory, but that's what the story was.
Yep.
You know,
there's that I've heard that my whole life, and now let me ask you a question on that part there. Now, do you know anybody that cuts the dew claws off of dogs?
I have people request it here when we're selling puppies.
Okay.
No, I do not know anybody doing it, and I personally never had a dew claw tore off of one.
I have not either, and everyone. I don't know how many does Hank have, Nate? 9.
I think he's
9 or 10 total dew claws.
I don't know. He's got a bunch.
He's got
like
triples. He's got triples on one back foot and quads on the other one, and he's got doubles on the fronts.
Well, that's interesting. Now I never seen anything.
Yeah, no, that's right. He's got them on the front and both back feet.
Yeah, I think he's got dew claws on all 4 of his legs. He's one of the only dogs I've ever seen.
And it's multiples. And that son of a gun has been snake bit. He has been bit by dogs, by hogs. He's had everything done you can have done to him, and like he's just Iron Man. You know, I think he should be 10 years old this year, 9 or 10 this year.
Well, that's when I was on that Joker dog. That's when I retired him. I took him for the last night, and I was standing on the 2-rut road coming up through there, little sandy road, and I heard him coming, and I saw the hog pass right by me, and then old Jake come right on there, in there behind him, and the dog he was doing everything he could. The hog was tired, he was tired, and he just couldn't close the gap. And I don't know where the rest of the daggone bunch of junk ass dogs were, but they weren't with where they should have been.
That's right.
Okay. And so I took and I stepped. I saw him. I called him back to me, and I put him on a lead, and I brought him out, and I never put him back in the woods. And on that, and I wound up having to have him put down he was 13, and I'm gonna tell you, that dog right there, you could not lay your hand on his body that you wasn't laying your hand on multiple cuts. He had just. And when we put those vests on, I was telling you about those vests. I know I ramble a lot. I'm sorry.
No, that's our whole platform here. Is we talking.
Yeah,
that's what we do. We don't have any structure at all. It's a damn mess.
Man, I got you. Well, he took and I forgot what I was going to say about that there, but you couldn't.
Well, you talking about having the vest when like when you had all the scars when you first got the vest.
Yeah, well, no, we through the vest and everything. I've seen him cut completely out of that vest before. Okay, and but I took and I seen him cut twice, 20 and both running a 21-inch cut. And the one that got me the most was it hit him got in the middle of his chest, ripped him from the middle of his chest all the way out till it hit the V. You know where that bone is, where the V is in the bottom jaw.
Yep.
And ripped right off. I mean, it didn't rip the bone into or anything, but the cut came from down in his bottom of his chest all the way through up his neck. And when you could reach in there and it didn't hit anything vital, you could reach in there and you could feel it the big vein pulsing on one side, and you could rub his esophagus on the other side. Not a single thing hurt on. I mean, he was cut up, he was hurt. Yeah, but I didn't mean it like that. But
it wasn't nothing that was going to put him out of commission.
No, he just had to heal up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had him up there on Lights Brothers one night, and we put off on a big hog with him, and we got the hog, and but the dogs was all cut up, and he was cut up, and when he came out of the bushes there, because it looked like a young, yearling Angus bull we was catching, but now I'm comparing this to old yearling Angus bull back in the day, the short stubby stuff, okay. And so they went to him, and he went in there because we'd left the truck, and all I had was a little headlight on and everything. We didn't have real bright lights back then. And got in there, and the moonlight was out, and all of a sudden, here he came out of the bushes, and I leaned over to one side, and people, I can tell people like y'all, I can tell y'all done caught a bunch of hogs, okay? All right, but I leaned over, and he came out of the palmettos, and that hog had hit that dog so hard that when the dog came out of there, it jerked the hog's eardrum out. He brought the ear completely with him and jerked the ear. I don't know if you've ever seen the eardrums jerked out of one before. Okay.
No, I haven't seen them jerked out, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've never had one jerked out.
Okay. and he came out, and that ear was hanging up both sides of his mouth. I mean, it looked like a big old domestic hog ear up there. You know, he hit the ground, rolled over, and came back and caught the hog again. And then we had 2 other dogs in there on him, and I got in there and let's see, John Jackson and Doug Hinkle was with me that night, and we got the hog down, but the hog was too big to move. So they was going to get the hog to where we could pick him up. And I took the dogs back with me to the vet in in Fort Myers, Florida, because they were cut, they were wrecked. All right. And I carried Joker out of there, and part way back, he started losing his functions. And I got him in the truck, got him back there. But when we got there, that hog had got up under that dog's front shoulder there, and took and cut him. And when you could lift, the only thing that kept him from bleeding to death was the shoulder stuck back together, right?
Yeah.
The cut had went all the way up under, like you would have took a knife to take a deer shoulder off.
Yes, sir.
And it went up through there, and it cut that artery in two. And the only reason that dog lived is because the way I had laid him down in the truck, because he couldn't get up. And he said, "You laid him down." He said, "Boy, that's the only thing that saved that dog's life." Because when we took it, when he raised it up, the blood started spraying. And so he sewed him all up, and he said, "This dog probably won't ever walk on that shoulder again now." And which I said, "Well, I'll use him for a stud dog." And I went out there and I worked that dog, massaged him. I was young, and worked that shoulder and everything. And I don't know, it wasn't very long later, not just a handful of weeks later, he was thumping again. He was ready to go.
It's amazing how tough some guns can be.
Oh yeah. But
so how big are these dogs that you got on your Bulldogs?
The Bulldogs we have here now, I like a small dog myself. Yeah. Because when you catching hogs, you don't need fiction, in fact, from Bruce's almanac. Okay, you do not need a great big dog to catch a hog with. All right, all you got to do is have a dog with a heart to keep that hog's head busy. Okay,
that's right.
Because and then the rest of it's on the human beings. You leg him and you lay him down and you tie him or kill him, do whatever you got to do with him. But anyway, most of my dogs here, to answer your question, the ones on the yard here right now, my females run between about 65 and 78 pounds. And I like the smaller side if I can. And the males run between about 83 and 95 pounds. Now, I've had bigger males and stuff come through, but I don't like to produce great big dogs. I just don't think there's a necessity for a great big dog. And I actually try to breed for smaller dogs and dogs that can breathe really well. These American Bulldogs we have here are not brachycephalic. These are standard dogs. Yeah, and if you got him in good condition, it ain't nothing for him to stay with you 5-6 hours out there getting it done.
And that's a huge thing. Like, because I've been in the woods with a couple of Americans, and they were on the bigger side. They were not they weren't what I would say I could turn them loose and let them really run, but they were hammers. As a walk-in catch dog, you couldn't ask for anything better. The only thing that I seen was, like you said, the brachyphilia, where they're. And for listeners out there who don't know what we're talking about where a dog has a short muzzle, or it looks like his nose is smushed in a little bit and it's harder for him to breathe. Bruce's dogs they're not like that. They have a better muzzle on them, and therefore they can breathe, and they can pull in air better. They can scent better. Apparently they have a really good nose on them. And if they can stay down in that Florida heat and humidity for 5 to 6 hours at a time, they can definitely take the heat and stuff.
Oh yeah. And everybody, to your point, a lot of people say a Bulldog can't track. That's a bunch of crap, because as I got older, I started having a bunch of surgery that I had to have done. About 2002, I guess it was. And they've operated on me 15 times since then, and I got 9 fusions. Okay. And they told me, "Look, boy, you better quit messing with those dogs. You can't do it anymore. You're going to wind up in a wheelchair messing around doing that." So I quit. And it was, there was 2 things I really loved in life. I still do. I love to hunt a wild hog, even though I can't really do it with the dogs anymore. And I just think women are absolutely outstanding.
Yes, sir.
Other than that, that's where I'm at, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, so, but yeah. And, again, these dogs right here, I mean, everybody says they got the same bloodline they did back when their granddaddy had it. Well, unless you got a 50 to 100 head of dogs and you do hub breeding with them,
Yeah.
you don't have the same dogs you had.
No.
You don't have the same dogs you had 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Okay.
I try to tell people there's 4 quarters in a dollar, fellas. There's
yes.
just 4 quarters, you know, and you know, once you breed that dog and you've bred off of a dog 6 or 8 times,
yes,
generations,
that's
like you don't have that dog.
You do not. Now, I believe in breeding tight. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you how I see it. If you got something good, breed it tight. All right.
Yes, sir.
Now, the good's gonna get better, and the bad's gonna get worse. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do it right, I mean, everybody talks about line breeding and all that, and in my opinion, and I think this is the truth. I mean, line breeding is nothing but being able to inbreed and not cause yourself a problem.
That's right.
You know, and so I breed tight, and then what I'll do is if I'll take it and I'll breed it until I see a flaw in it, and if I see a flaw, once I see a flaw show up, I'll back up one step to where I had no flaw, and call it done. Because you already pushed it as far as you can go with it.
There
all right, you already see an evidence, and so that, you know, there's things like that. And here on this place, we'll breed a female till she's 7 years old. You know, when we were raised up young, they used to tell us, if you breed a bitch, skip a heat and then breed her the next time if you need to. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a man he's passed away now, and he mentored us for about 7 years here on this place. And I really thought I knew something about a dog till I met this gentleman. He was a veterinarian, Dr. Michael Purvis. And like I said, he passed away a few years back now. And he helped us with this here. I mean, he handled every litter for 7 years. He came here and he looked at them and he handled them. And one day I asked him, I said, "Dog, you know, why do you come here all the time helping us and stuff like that?" Which we talk a couple times a week, man. We'd have some drinks or whatever else, set out under the shop or the dogs and mess with them, whatever the case may be. He was just a good down to earth fellow, wonderful human. And he said, "Well, Bruce, I didn't mean to intrude." He said, "But now look," he said, "this is the deal. I've never seen, in 30 years of practice, I've never seen this many bulldogs in one spot. Now, bird dogs on the plantation wasn't nothing that, you know, they 40 to 100 head of bird dogs be down in there, but bird dog trials and stuff like that."
Yeah.
And those people, that's a whole different setup there when you're on the plantations like that. You're in a different group of people, man.
Yes.
Okay. And nothing wrong with it, but I did ask Miss Ireland one time. I said, "Miss Ireland, you know," I said, "you know, what does it cost to hunt out here?" And she said, "Well, to do a weekend, it's $45,000 donation to $65,000 donation."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "To shoot some birds?" She said, "Yes." But I was younger, and she said, "Well, son, just sit down here and let me tell you how this works." She goes, "It's not about the birds. It's not about the dogs we're doing what we're doing." Okay. She says, "It's a matter when you sit down at that lodge table right there and you and another person turn around, you have a conversation and you shake hands on $2, $5, $10 million deal and say it'll all you can take care of it Monday. You know, you're sitting with people who can actually do it."
That's right.
And so, you know, so that was a learning experience for me as a younger person, but that's how it worked, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And but Doc, he took care of all the plantation dogs and stuff like that. And he saw how tight we were breeding here, and he said, "Now look, because it's out there now, because people are going to, you know, they'll throw, if it's on that internet, I don't know if you know it or not, but if it's on that internet, it's true, and it don't matter what you have to say about it."
Yeah, that's exactly right. Don't matter how many times you've done it.
Yes. Okay. And he said, "Bruce," he said, "this is the deal." He said, "Would you and Katrina let me run use this as an example, a study on COIs, which coefficient of inbreeds, which I know you know."
Yes,
all right. And he said, because, you know, technically once you hit 10%, you should start picking up lethal genes. And I'm seeing you breeding way past 10%, and I've seen you do it for several years, and you don't have a single problem. He said that study is flawed. I could see it. And which he when he sold his business, he went to work for Florida A&M University as a research veterinarian. So he wanted to do that, and then the bone within 3 or 4 weeks he found out he had bone cancer, and within a couple of months he had passed away. So that never occurred. Yeah. So, but so anybody out there listening, if you breed at 10% or above, they're saying you're supposed to pick up lethal genes, and you can. Okay. But I mean, you can do that at lower than 10%, or you can do that if you get past 10% and you're not having any problem and you keep going. You just do it until you see that first issue and back up one step. And that's the deal that Doc and he helped the Swedish dogs, took care of and everything. And he said, let's do it like that. And I said, all right. So that's what we did. And so about as far as I've ever pushed it is about 42% on the COI.
Wow.
And see what I did notice, it wasn't terrible, but I did start to see a little bit of litter size reduction.
Okay.
Other than that, I didn't have any problem out of it. And then and breeding these bulldogs like we're breeding them here, I mean, and I didn't know this. I mean, this is something that's just come up. Like, man, I tell you, I don't know about you, but I learn stuff every day about dogs.
I try to.
Yeah, I mean, it's my opinion, if you run into somebody that says they got it all figured out, you need to distance yourself from that individual.
Yeah, I don't want to be around them.
Yeah. So, but what we've been able to do now, because we do this genetic testing on them, and people ask me, they'll call and they'll ask us, they say, okay, you have 100% American Bulldogs? And my answer is no, I do not. Okay. And well, they're registered, they're purebreds, right? I said, they are registered, they are purebreds. And they said, well, you have to explain to them that the act of registering a dog, a purebred dog or a registered dog, is bred to the line of dogs in its background, and that's what you're verifying.
Yes.
Okay. So if those dogs were adulterated 10 generations back, which is easy to do, okay, then as they come down and you're still breeding those same lines on paper, you're still bringing that same adulteration down to present.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what people don't understand. But when you explain it to people that which I mean, I tell you, I have paperwork on these dogs that say they're 100%, but it came through a specific testing company that, what they're doing, they're only testing at 5% increments. If it falls in at 4.99% or below, they're not counting it. So if the dog reaches over 51% on that specific company, if it reaches 51% and none of the other dogs that's in this pedigree, that's in the genetics, shows up at more than at 5%, they say the dog is 100%. So you could have, another 10 breeds of dogs in there, or 9 breeds of dogs, 10 breeds of dogs that were below 5%.
Yeah.
And if you'd have a dog test at 51%, dog of any type, I mean, ours here are Americans, but then they're going to round up and say it's 100% dog.
That's right.
And it's just not true. Okay. And because what we did, we participated in a study with the Marc Genetic Institute, which is Hershey's chocolate and all that stuff. And they wanted to map the American Bulldog gene. And Alan Scott had called down and he said, Bruce, would you and your family like to do that? Because I had never been around those folks. I didn't even know that they existed. And our daughter Brooke found them on the internet. And so I got an outcross because I needed an outcross male. And so I went up and bought a pair from Alan Scott. And brought him out. Good dogs. He's man had good dogs. And so anyway, so I took, and he said, some of your blood is not related to anything else we know around here. And I said, okay. So the criteria was not to, when you swabbed them, was to not swab any siblings. And so we swabbed the kennel, sent it off, and about 10 months later it came back. Man, I was heartbroken. I started to get rid of most everything I had because I thought I'd been lying to people. All right. Yeah, because the poorest dog I had, phenotype correct, was 25% American Bulldog. That was it.
Wow.
Yeah, I was shattered. And the best one was another female that I had, and she was 52%. And so that was the best I did. And I knew that I had never bred anything other than bulldogs to bulldogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that stuff was back in there a long time ago. And one of the things through this testing procedure that I know of, and it may be less now, but I know that 12.5% of genetic material can control phenotype. I mean, it will give you the dog that just looks like the porcelain perfect dog, and the rest of it be 87.5% of it be nothing that you're looking at. And what happened was, when I started all this, I started looking for dogs with higher breed purity, and I knew where a dog was. I said, if that dog's not 100% American Bulldog, there ain't nothing on the planet is. And I went and asked the lady, I said, ma'am, can I test that dog? She was intact. And she goes, well, yes, son, you can, as long as it don't hurt her, you can test her. And I said, well, if she comes out like I think, can we breed her? She goes, yeah, you can breed her one time. And so I went, tested that dog, sent it off. She came back 87.5% pit bull and 12.5% American Bulldog. You
Wow.
would have, no way you would have believed that. And I mean, I just, for me, it was just a lot to understand. And the only reason I stayed in this genetic testing was because of Dr. Michael Purvis. He explained it to me so a layman could understand it and move forward with it. And so that's the reason I've done this. And now we've got dogs here. We produce dogs at this point that are up to 87.5%. You can raise breed purity inside your own lines. Okay. But the only effective way I found to do that was when the litters were born. You tested every puppy in the litter. It's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Because it can vary 35% below or above the parents in the same litter.
I got you.
And so what you do, you hold the phenotype correct puppies back that are genotype higher purity, and you keep breeding purity to purity, and it'll raise on up. So right now in here, I've got to refigure it all. Take all the percentages off all the dogs, and then divide the number of dogs into whatever that is. But at one point here, we were right at 75% on breed purity now throughout the kennel.
Wow, that's pretty good there. Now that's
Yeah.
about as good as you can get, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm still working to get it on up there a little further, but you can tell the difference in them too, man, because these dogs, I've noticed over time, they'd gotten harder and harder to handle over time.
Yes,
With the testing, what I've noticed is the higher the breed purity goes on these Americans, most of them, there's always an anomaly, but the most of them will handle more easily, and they'll still do their job and everything else. But what you find in these dogs a lot is boxer, bulldog, Staffordshire Terrier, an American Pit Bull Terrier, and then the American Bulldog gene. And there's a lot of people that'll ask you, well, since they nearly went extinct, how do they know what the American Bulldog gene is? Well, what the Mars Genetic Institute did, a lady by the name of Dr. Casey Knox did the study. They tested those 10,000 dogs. There was 10,000 dogs tested worldwide, and they only found 400% dogs out of 10,000 worldwide.
Wow.
And the rest, and so what they did was they tested for all known breeds, okay? And the gene that continued to consistently pop up that had not been identified as a breed, but it was consistent through all 10,000 dogs, was the gene they dubbed the American Bulldog gene.
Okay, I got you. I see where it's at.
Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, now that I do as much as I do with this stuff here, this testing, I think like back in the day when you had an outstanding, what we call them stem winders. Okay. He's a stem winder. Okay. Well, if we'd have had that kind of testing available like we do today, which I think people could apply, and I believe it'll work fine for them. All right. But what I'm experiencing here, if you find a dog that's really doing everything you need it to do flawlessly, and you test that dog, you find out what that dog's makeup is. All right. Now you have to stay with the same testing company. We use Wisdom Panel Premium. That's the first people that opened up the Mars company opened up. All right. I mean the Mars family opened up. So anyway,
Wisdom Panel Premium.
Yeah, that's what we use. Yeah, because they'll test at 1% increments.
Okay.
And see, then see the people well. Let me finish this up first. But so
Okay.
what happens is if you get in there and you got a dog and you know it's breakdown and you start breeding to that dog, and especially if you got any family heritage where you line breeding on them and you breed them, you look when you test that litter, you look for the breakdown to match the dog that's the top-notch dog as best you can find it in there, and you hold that puppy back, and you start homogenizing those genes toward that dog because the proof's in the pudding. The dog's already doing everything you want him to do, and you just keep breeding them in there, and I believe that you could take in short order. You could set up a bunch of dogs that were doing everything that would operate more like that dog that you really thought was just the best thing since sliced bread.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can do it like that.
Well, I mean, in the way you explained it, like you said, and the way you're explaining it right now, because we've had a couple other guests on that are really big into genetics and things like that, and some of the things that they explain, I understand a good portion of it, but there's a lot of guys out there that they don't understand the scientific parts of it. If you once you put it into layman terms, like you just said about a purebred dog, I have tried to explain that in 1,000 ways, and I have been very unsuccessful in getting people to comprehend that. And it's just the way I'm explaining it, and the way that you just explained it right there. It's like, it makes it so much easier for them to understand, because I've tried to explain that, like from the game dog stuff. I was like, they're old timers. I know several that would add Staffordshire Terrier or English Bull Terrier, and they were like, well, how are they purebred dogs? Because it doesn't matter what actual breed it is. It doesn't have to have a name. It's what breed you're breeding. It's like
the lineage.
It's just the lineage. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if something was added or not. It's just the lineage, as long as it's been held continuous.
Right.
That's what matters. The continuity.
100%. So that's it.
But no, that's cool. The way you can explain these things like that, man. I like that.
Well, the deal of it, I appreciate it, but the deal of it is, if I hadn't had Dr. Purvis to break this down, because I just have a high school education, and I'll tell you, when it first started, it didn't make sense to me at all. I'd have quit doing it. Okay. But he was raised poor, like I was raised.
Me too. I still am.
Yeah. Still got most of what I had when I was born. Yeah. And so he explained it. He had become a successful person, but you would never know it. And you could not introduce him to people that walked up to us as Dr. Purvis. You introduced him as Mike. They never needed to know he was a doctor. Okay.
Got you.
And one of the things when I was asking him about that, he said, I never seen this many bulldogs. And he said, I never seen this many bulldogs in 30 years of practice. And he said, which, it's not that many of them. I try to keep everything that I have. I try to keep in the 12 runs I have right up here at the shop, because I tell you, you move dogs down back, and which I have to periodically have to do when puppies are here. All right. Buddy, they get to having an attitude about things. You done took them away from up here where you're at most of the time. You stuck them down there in the back pens, which is not very far. We're talking about 100 yards away. Okay, and they get attitudes about it. They just get feelings hurt. But anyway, he had told me so. And when I asked him, I didn't finish that. I said, why do you do this with us? And he said, well, Bruce, he goes, I hope I'm not intruding. And I said, well, absolutely not. People would pay for this information and hadn't do. He says, my daddy put me through college by training bird dogs on the plantations. He trained for all the plantations. He said, my daddy and he said there was a big boar hog causing problems when I was a little boy doing something on the plantation. And he said, we came out and Daddy had a white English bulldog in the bed of the truck. He said that was his buddy. He went everywhere with him. He said he put the dog off on the hog, caught the hog. Daddy laid the hog down, killed the hog, and the dog laid down and died right next to the hog. And he said that's the only dog I saw my daddy handle thousands of dogs. He said that's the only dog I ever saw my daddy cry over. Yep. And He said, that's why I'm helping you, and you're trying to go back to old genetics, not new and improved. He said, and that's where we need to be headed, back to what we had, stuff that worked, stuff that proved itself back in the day when there wasn't veterinarians running around. You know, that, I mean, it had to live. It had to do right. It couldn't be out there killing the family pig in the winter, and yeah, I mean, that was going to be fattened up for the winter to carry the family through. It wasn't chained up, wasn't anything else. But yet, if something came up to the homestead right there, it needed to fight whatever was after whatever it was on the homestead. Okay.
Yes.
And he said, if you're going back to those genetics, you'll get back to those dogs. And I said, well, that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. But because when I was real little, and I told this story to Battlebred, but they took and they put off on some hogs out in the grass pasture, and I had 2 white bulldogs up in the bed of the truck, a male and a female, and I was riding in the bed of the truck, you know, just little bitty guy. And the dogs, they unloaded those dogs, and the boar hog, I naturally stopped first out there, and he wasn't going to make it to a tree line, so the boar hog just stood to fight. It's basically what happened. And so they caught him, and he split them open, and the guys got him that was in the truck, and they took, and I can't remember if they killed him or tied him. I just cannot. I've tried to remember, but I can't remember. And they sent the bulldogs back to the truck, and the dogs loaded back up in the truck with me, and white truck, white dog, little boy about, 3 feet tall, maybe. Okay. And I saw that blood, and I reached down my hands, and I pulled the cut open on that male, trying to look in there. I was so little, I wanted to know what was inside of a bulldog. I mean, inside of a dog, period.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to look in there, that small. And all that dog did was just lick me in the face and wag his tail.
Yeah, man.
Stuff like that. And that's the type of dog I try to breed for. Stuff that you got the baby playing on the blanket out there, and which all our grandchildren have slept with these bulldogs. They live in South Florida, and they don't. Once a dog get up about 18 months old with them, you really don't have to worry about somebody snatching one of them up. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And so they I want a dog that'll be laying on that blanket with a baby wallowing around on it, and if something comes in that yard, I don't need to tell that dog what to do or anything else, but if it looks like it shouldn't be there, it might be a problem. That dog needs to be over there laying waste to it. I don't whether he lives or dies doing it, you know?
Yes, sir.
And when it's over with, the dog needs to be able to immediately come back to that child and sit down with that child, and not the child not be in peril from a wired out dog.
That's exactly right. That's what needs to be bred. Exactly.
Yes.
And because you hear a lot of horror stories, and I'm not going to say it's from just the dogs. It's from, like you said, human error. The breeders. Somebody gets 2 dogs and they breed them together, and they just do it. And they're like, now let's sell them. And let's pollute the world with a bunch of junk.
Yes. Yes.
And and then you have dogs that show aggression, or they actually bite somebody or something. Well, then the person doesn't want to get rid of it because he paid an astronomical amount for a piece of crap that, just a shitty dog that shouldn't even been bred.
Exactly.
And so then they let their buddy have it, and then they breed it again. And they say, well, I'll just go, you just handle him and breed him. And it becomes a revolving door of junk.
Yeah.
So the importance of breeding for those specific characteristics and traits is the highest of importance. That's the highest level of importance that we can get.
Yeah.
And I wish more people would do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, buddy. This is the deal. This is the way I look at it. If I get, and I've had dogs over the years. I mean, it's the deal. If you're going to raise dogs and you're going to breed dogs, you're going to cull dogs if you're doing it right. Okay, that's just long and short of it. All right. And now you may cull them for various different things. Some of them may be good for family homes and didn't turn out phenotype correct or whatever, or just what I don't know. But now if I got one comes and I haven't had it, I'm saying I'm rocking up on 20 years now. Okay, and give or take. I mean, not much, but I'm saying around 20 years. I have not had to cull a dog for aggression. And because I mean, this is the deal. I mean, and people, and they'll tell you, on a dog that's if I personally have a dog that I think is too aggressive, all right, then I'm not going to give that dog away. I'm going to take that dog and have it dealt with. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And because if I can't, if with the years I've had with him, if I feel he's too squirrely, too dangerous, then I'm sure not going to hand him off to somebody with less experience than I've got.
Lord, no.
You
And it
know,
happens. And that's the
it
crazy
does.
thing. It happens.
Yeah.
You will have people be like, man, this dog is, he acts weird or does this or does that. And then they know some 17-year-old young man that's pretty tough. And they're like, hell, I'll give it that boy right there. Why would you do that?
It doesn't make sense.
But it happens. Like I'm glad Bruce, I'm so glad you're on here because like it's you know exactly the things that I'm talking about and I know what you're talking about on these things. It seems like the general consensus is most of the general public, they don't see a problem with it. Or they don't think it through.
They're not thinking it through. See, this is the deal. I'm a kind of guy that likes to stay in my lane. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a prescribed burner. I'm retired from it now. I can't do it, but I prescribed fire. Okay. My formal training was in pesticides. I was an operator for 20 years, farming and wildland management, wildlife and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now that, if you want that sort of stuff done, I believe that I can produce you a really good product. Okay. But if you need a brain surgeon, I'm not the guy to call. All right.
Go.
All right. So what I think people should do instead of they get that internet out there. Okay.
Oh,
yeah. They look at that and they've got people that may have had a dog or two or three or just read a bunch about a dog and they write this stuff up and they put it out there and then that becomes the word right there. There's the beginning and the end of it is right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not that way, man. I mean, so the moral of my story is people, it is my opinion, which they don't write books on. Okay. My friend Richard Brown came up with that saying there. Okay. But he said, well, they don't write books on what we have to say. But the way I feel about it is people should stay in their lane. If they're a mechanic, do your mechanics. If you got some questions, you want to throw something out there at somebody and have a conversation, that's one thing. But you can't be an authority at everything.
No.
And so it's tough, man. And you get it like in Florida here, we're really Florida state law is written very strictly about what I have to do to turn a dog over to you. All right. If you buy a puppy from here, I'm going to have to take it, which it would be healthy anyway. I'm not going to do that. But you got people that don't pay any attention to the law, and they're out there doing exactly what you said, breeding two dogs together, feeding, and whatever lives they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you got people like us that when the puppy's eyes open, about 10, 12 days old, we got a whelping room and everything down there, man. That's, high-tech redneck, and so that we've got wire bottoms in them. I don't know. I don't have this in them. That's what I'm going to replace them with. I don't know why I didn't do it originally, but there's a product out there called Tenderfoot they used to use in farrowing houses. I don't know if you've ever messed with any hogs like that.
I know what my uncle and my dad, they had some farrowing houses.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, that old Tenderfoot, it's coated and everything. It's basically expanded metal.
Yeah.
But so that's what I'm going to replace the wiring stuff in these boxes with. I've got them elevated. We do. And what we do is we use long leaf pine straw and we put it in there really, really thick in those elevated boxes. And so the only thing the bitch has to do while she's there is lick them to make them go to the bathroom. And basically pick up poop, because when the puppies are peeing, it's just that long leaf's got that it's got turpentine in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of naturally antiseptic, and it avoids water as long as it's elevated like that. The urine will just run straight through is the moral of the story, and go to the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And so all I got to do then is just wash out underneath the floor, and so she's not laying up there on a wet bed full of just pee and everything in there.
It's all smelling like ammonia and
all that
stuff.
Yeah. And I can't have that, man. I just can't have it. And we measure airflow in there. We can measure humidity and heat. With puppies, when you first start with them, you need your humidity in the room at about 68%. And then you want to keep it in there about right at 80 degrees.
I
All
I
right.
didn't know about the humidity.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the deal of it is it's the panting and everything. They push off less. The bitches dehydrate less.
Okay.
All right. So it's a matter of keeping that moisture. If she's too hot or it's too dry in there, and things are evaporating out, well, you're pulling moisture from that bitch when it should be going. That moisture should be going to milk.
Okay.
And you following what I'm
Oh yeah,
seeing?
I
Talking
got
about?
you. I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
you.
yeah. And you need that milk needs to be going to those puppies. And then and you send decreasing levels as the puppies get bigger, And we have most of our puppies. They're usually weaned at the first of the very beginning of the fourth week of life. Everybody thinks that you taking and these puppies stay with their mama until they're 8 weeks old and all
Mm-hmm.
that. You can't do that. You would never raise but one litter off of a bitch if you did that,
Mm-hmm.
or that you didn't wind up killing the puppies because they had her tore up, so sore, and they couldn't get away from it. If you trap her in there with them, bad things gonna happen.
Yep.
Okay.
That's right. Well, I mean, like we in the game dogs and stuff. 4 to 5 weeks. That's usually where we were at. And like you said, you'd be surprised at the people that have an issue with that.
Oh yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, what? This puppy? I'm like, you can pick up your puppy at 6 weeks old if you want to come pick him up, And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, 6 weeks? I'm like, yeah, because like these dogs, they'll have tits tore off at 8 weeks.
Oh yeah, 100%. You'll never raise another litter of puppies
Mm-hmm.
with her. If they're not tore off, they'll be so big a little
Yes,
puppy can't put his mouth on it.
it's tough.
Yeah.
Well, that tells me
Now I
right
tell you,
there, you got some really good stock there for sure. I like that.
well, we bringing them. We bring about the very first of the fourth week. I mean, we never let them go into the fifth week. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But and on a large breed dog like this, you want those puppies to be gaining about a pound to pound and a half a week. Okay. Now, Florida law says you can't. I can't let you leave with a puppy here until it's 8 weeks old. It has to have health certificates on it and been through the vet and all that. If it's a puppy above $200. Now, I don't know why, but evidently a puppy that's $199 or less don't suffer like a $200 puppy
Oh,
does.
okay, I got you.
Yeah. Okay.
I knew y'all had
And
some different laws on stuff, but I didn't know about that.
oh yeah, yeah. If you hit $200, which I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, if you're doing everything like these pins, sitting there. These 12 pins sitting up here. They're 5 by 26. They got 5 foot by 10 foot of concrete on them, and they got 16 foot. They're the horse panels or the security panels that you get from the co-op. They're 16 foot long,
Yes,
two
sir.
before panel. And because when I put an animal somewhere, I want it to be there until I let it out, or it doesn't live anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so the dog's getting out, running up and down the road. I'm not down with all that. And so the deal of it is you want that puppy to gain about a pound, pound and a half a week. We put them in these runs, and we right now we're getting 1,500 on the puppies.
Yes, sir.
Okay. These dogs are genetically clear right now, unless they've added something in the last few months. There's 267 genetic diseases that can be bred. We have none of them.
Wow.
Okay. And I took and asked again with Dr. Purvis there. He said, well, I said, God smiled on us, didn't he, Doc? He goes, well, yeah, he did for sure, Bruce. He said, but now there's a little more to it than that. And I said, well, what's that? He said, even though you can't do it anymore, all this stock came down off of working dogs. And I said, yeah, that's right. He said, well, he said, when you did get one hurt bad or slowed down and you got killed or whatever else, he said, it sucked, didn't it? And I said, well, yeah, it sucked. I wouldn't have been feeding him, taking care of him all that time if I didn't like the dog. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, that's when genetic disease catches them, is typically between 2 to 5 or 3 to 5 years old. That's when they start slowing down. And he said, what was happening when you use them and working them for their intended purpose? Mother Nature found the weak links, and over these decades, she's weaned them out. You don't have them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, he said that's how that went. He goes, most people that he like I said, he doctored the dogs for 30 something years. He said, most people are never done what I've seen and know that you've done with these dogs. And he said, that's why you're clear. And he said, now what you got to do is when you bring in outside stuff, you just make sure it's clear and you don't have these problems. And what we've run into with people with that is they think it's too involved. But what they want to do is, like you said, feed. They want to breed and feed and get what they can. They don't want to put nothing into it. So they're not checking. So what happens if you got a single gene carrier of myelopathy, all right, which is a muscle degenerative disease, okay, and it's just a single gene carrier. Well, that dog's fine. I mean, you can actually breed that dog and do everything else, but you don't want to breed it to a dog, another dog that's got the same gene of myelopathy, because then you're going to produce double gene carrier, and those dogs are going to die at 3 to 5 years old. Simple. Okay,
right.
so what you do is you take that dog no matter what the gene is, whatever one you want to pick out of the 267 they can test for now, and we'll just stick with myelopathy. So you take and you got a clear male over here, and the bitch is carrying a gene carrier of myelopathy. She's only carrying one copy of it. You breed that male to her. You test the litter. The puppies, none of the puppies are ever going to become afflicted because there's still only one copy that's going to pass through. And part of those puppies that come through there will carry no copy, like the male. We're just using that as an example.
Yes, sir.
And so then if all that's phenotype correct, it's what you want, and you keep back the clear puppies. And so those bloodlines continue to go. You just let the other stuff age out over time because it's never going to get sick with it. But then you take it out of the gene pool. That disease is out of there then.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, and so what people think when you tell them $1,500 for a puppy, a lot of people think they want all this stuff that's on the internet, but they think that you're getting rich at $1,500, and that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying about these pens right here. I'm looking at each one of these pens. I got the heavy duty stuff, and not the Tractor Supply stuff. I got 1/4-inch welded wire pens. Okay, and so when I bought them 10 years ago, they were $550 a hole for the 10 foot by 5 foot pen. And then you put rock in there behind them for them to go out on the rest, or have a bathroom, keep them up out of the dirt and everything. You lay a panel down there, or you put a mat, lay your panel, and you fill it with rock. Well, this is something you really got to be cautious with if you're using rock. And I'm saying this pretty much for the people listening. If you put rock in here like I did, I was going to put the gray crushed granite rock, and Doc told me, "No, sir, Bruce, don't you do that." He said, "That's a good idea. What you're going to do is a good idea." He said, "But don't put that kind of rock in there." He says, "You'll kill every dog you got." And I said, "All right." He said, "You got to put something, a polished rock in there, which is like, well, y'all got plenty of it up there in Alabama. That old tan-looking rock that comes out of the rivers and stuff up there,
sir.
the smooth." Yeah, that's what's in these pens right here. But now it's $3,000 a truckload to get that stuff down here. Okay. And so you put that in there, and he said, "Bruce, as soon as you put those dogs in on top of it, they're going to go in there and they're going to immediately start to eat it." And, I was tight with Doc, and I said, "Okay," but I'm thinking, "Okay, Doc, all right, whatever. But I'm going to do, we're going to do it." Okay. So we put the rock in there, turned them into it, and as soon as I loaded the pens with dogs, every one of them was standing out there eating rock, dude. They swallowed it, and they probably and sometimes they'll still eat on it, but it's that tan rock. It's what is about usually no bigger than any of your thumb.
Yeah,
and it's
like
smooth,
like a pea gravel, real polished.
Yes. And it's bigger than a pea gravel, but it's real polished and everything, about the size of a big marble or whatever. Some of it is, and it'll pass straight through them and never cause you any impactions or anything like that. Where if you put the crushed stuff in there, it's being crushed, and you got sharp tips and edges on it, okay, and it perforates the stomach lining and the intestines. Yeah. So you'll poison your dog with their own, gut leaking into them.
Wow, that's something there.
Yeah. So it is what it is, but man,
it takes a lot of money to do that, and $1,500 for a puppy. I mean, and all the things that you've just said in this interview so far, I mean, you've probably got half of that or more tied up in the puppy before somebody gets it.
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. They want, and I like doing it. It's a hobby, and I live way out here in the middle of nowhere, man. I mean, and inside this forest, and so for me to get to the edge of town up there on a good day, it's about 40 minutes. All right. And so for me to drive up to town and get a part-time job handing out shopping carts or something like that for some extra money, that ain't in the cards, buddy.
So that's funny.
I've had these dogs all my life, and I've enjoyed them. And I guess if you ever see me get completely out of them, you'll know I probably ain't got long left.
I understand.
And it's my intent to continue to work on them. And we got these dogs, and a lot of people now, we get to this other thing too. I mean, again, I'm continuing to ramble, but you said that's good.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, people talk about kennel clubs and things of that nature, and kennel clubs, registration clubs ruin dogs.
Mm-hmm.
It is my belief that is not true. Okay, kennel clubs are. Well, this is the deal now. Think about it. About it. All they doing is keeping paper.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The breeders are doing the breeding and writing the standards.
Yes.
All right. So who is responsible for ruining the bloodlines?
Oh, it's the breeders.
It's the breeders doing it every day.
It's
all
the breeders
day.
100%.
Yep.
But like, I've been involved with a club. Start, from
Mm-hmm.
the start, and like you said, it's the breeders. It's not the actual club. No. And I had to backpedal on some of that stuff because I'm like, I've seen it where it has, but that's just I don't know. It is the breeders 100%. But the breeders were the original breeders were the ones that started the club, and everything was going. We had it where it needed to be. And then there was 2 or 3 guys that said, man, we can make a little money.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it started. And then over the course of the last 10 years, it got to be where I see this breed of dog, and it's like, man, these dogs have fell off so bad. Like, I don't even own them anymore. I mean,
well, I get it.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I do have to correct even some of the things I've said on that part. It is specifically who's breeding the dog. It is not the registry. It's not the kennel club. No. It's not the breed club. It's the people who are breeding. You are right.
Now the breed club would have a lot to do with it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because the breed club for a specific breed writes the standards.
Yes.
Okay. So if that breed club writes a standard for an anomaly that these people are putting, a select group of the breeders are wanting to push for because they can sell that dog, that anomaly, for more money than they can a good correct dog. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
Okay. Then it's the breed club's responsibility to make sure that the standard is written so that you have a good, solid, sound animal to go to, not something that's got a slope back in it that's so sloped that his genitals are dragging the ground. Mm-hmm. Okay,
so that's one of the issues we had. It's like we had a great standard, and we were all upholding that standard for a long time.
Yes,
and then 1 or 2 of the guys that were basically that were empowered in it. They were the ones that were just breeding anything and everything and shipping them out everywhere. And I'm like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's a bad reflection on that part. But at the same time, it wasn't everybody in there. And like you said, having a breed club, you should have that standard and you should uphold that standard.
100%.
And the thing about it is there has to be at least 1 or 2 people that are I don't know how to say this, I guess a jerk. That's what everybody's going to call you, because you have to stand up and say, no, guys, we can't let this shit fly. This is what it is. This is what's written down in our bylaws. This is what our standard is. This is what confirmation is, and that's what it's got to be.
Yes.
And we can't let it go
Yep.
by just because, well, it was my cousin's grandma's aunt's dog. We can't,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I get it, dude. And so this is the deal. These dogs are registered through, some of them are registered through 4 different registries over time. But I took and what we've done is because some of the registries, hold on, these dogs got fired up. There's a damn dog fight down there in the pen somewhere away from the house and needs to get sparked off.
Hmm.
Hold on.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, it's damn. That's coyotes down in there.
Uh-oh.
I hadn't heard a pack that big in forever.
Getting fired up, huh?
Oh yeah, they sparked off. Anyway, back to these breeds, like you was talking about in these breed clubs and saying, which we this is the deal. I mean, I was have been registered in these other registries, so, getting the dogs out in front of people and stuff like that. And because when I first got involved with this, when I found out that I didn't even know they could be registered. My first dogs were taken, when I got them registered, they sent an inspector to them and measured them, weighed them, and looked at them, and then they were accepted as foundation stock because the registry was still open. Okay, and that's 20 years ago, I guess, maybe a little longer. And so anyway, we kept moving forward. Well, what happens a lot of times, and they got several thousand dogs, but in some small registries, you've got the same people that are holding the shows, and they just start championing their buddies' dogs, and the buddy champions their dog.
That's right.
And it winds up not meaning nothing, because when you put dogs or livestock, whatever the case is, into a ring, you're judging that dog against the standard. Okay.
Yep.
And the dog that's most closely 100% correct to that standard is first place dog. Okay. And then those dogs should be looked at as potentially used as breeding dogs. And if they don't this is the deal. If there's not a dog in the whole group that meets the standard, then you might as well, well, I don't know, sorry for y'all, but that's right. We're not going to place nothing here. There's nothing that meets. Okay. But they don't want to do that, to your point. And so anyway, I got away from that. And again, Dr. Purvis, I had some issues that I was torn about, but we went ahead and got these dogs accepted into the American Bulldog, accepted into the Foundation Stock Services for the AKC. All right. And they've been in there for about November 19th when we started it. Finally got them accepted. And we've been working on full acceptance ever since. So, but we're still in the FSS. We think that we are about to move into what they call miscellaneous with these dogs.
Okay.
All right. And from there to full recognition is just a short list of things to do. But so this is, to my understanding, this is the 8th time. I think it's the 8th time, 8th or 9th, whatever it is. It's less than 10 times since 1884 that an American breed has ever been accepted into the AKC Foundation Stock Services.
Man,
now, with all that being said, there is concern for me. Now, we interviewed and talked to people, and people flew down out of New York to the dog show in Tallahassee and talked to us along with Dr. Purvis. And a few other people, Miss Leah James and all that. And they said, yeah, we let's go ahead and do this thing. So we did. And you had to have 40, what a lot of people don't understand, for the AKC to take a dog, it's got to have 40 years of correct paper keeping behind it. Okay. They won't even look at it otherwise. And so a lot of people got in their heads because other people had tried to do this with these dogs over the years. And what they weren't understanding is they didn't have 40 years of paper. We barely came up with 40 years of paper. All right. And so we got that done. And so all these people, they started saying, well, the AKC people, they tell you how to breed your dogs. They ruin dogs. They do this, that, and the other. Well, when we got a little further into this, they said, okay, they had the standard there, and they sent it back to us and said, you need to do blah, 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 blah. And I was like, red flag, right? And so we got to talking, and we talked back and forth. And ultimately, what the problem is there with writing the standard and them talking to you about your standard, in the true sense of the word, they do tell you how to write your standard. But this is what they're telling you to do. They have people, the judges have to go to school for a year, and they have to be familiar with the dog before they can actually judge the dogs. All right. And so what they were doing on this standard, like for me, did you know a dog has arms?
No.
Huh?
No.
Okay. If you look at it, if somebody's got a computer there, look up, it's for Anatomy for Dummies or something like that on dogs. And they'll have a hound standing there. And when you look at it, it's scientifically broken down. There's two arms on a dog on each side. There's an upper and lower arm. Okay. I didn't know that after all these years, man. So I had
4 legs. Yeah. I was like,
yeah. But it's that, yeah. But no, it's taken in something for dummies. Anyway, they took in. So what they're doing is when you write the standard for your dog, we wrote it in like layman terms, like me and you, and what we're talking about here on this phone tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was fine, and they understood what we were trying to describe. We just weren't describing the animal anatomically correct with anatomically correct terms. And since the judges have to go to school worldwide to judge a dog, they have to learn anatomically correct terms, and they have to know teeth counts and everything. All right.
Okay.
And so that's where it ran into that they were telling us how to write our standard. Now, if you just wrote it out scientifically that the dog has an upper arm, a lower arm, the blade of the shoulder's laid back, rolled forward, the gait and all that stuff. This all of it has scientific terms attached to it, and that's all they ask you to do because that's how the judges are trained.
Yeah, it says upper arm, forearm, wrist, elbow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's just crazy because I've never judged for AKC or anything like that, but I've judged quite a few shows over the years and I've never ever been referred to as arm.
Right. I never knew about this, man, but that's how so you've got the breakdown right there in front of you now.
Right. Yes. Right in front of me.
Yeah. So I was trying to scroll through it here and find it, but
yeah,
so good.
I went to, let's see, it says, yeah, that's basically what it is. Dog anatomy from head to tail, from the book, dog grooming for dummies or something like that. Yeah. It's got one excerpt from dog anatomy for dummies or something.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I really, because everybody kept telling me that they're going to do that to you. They're going to do that to you. They're going to tell you how to write it. And that's what's going to ruin the dog. Well, when they started that, it was like, damn, I done put all this time into this, right?
Yeah.
Myself and my family. And here this is coming to fruition. Well, it ultimately, they weren't telling us. The only thing they were saying is you have to write it to this degree of intricacy.
Mm-hmm.
So that the judges are all trained the same way, and they're all on the same page. Now, you can, that can mean anything to your breed at any level that you want it to, but it's got to be written with those terms.
I fully understand exactly what you're saying. It's like, it's just like an umpire for a baseball game. There's so many little rules and stuff that most players or coaches, they might not even know.
Right.
And it's a certain way, like drawing a line with your bat or something, How many kids have you seen go up there, get in a batter's box, get ready to take a swing, or they're doing their little workout before they even get posted up. And if they put the tip of their bat down while the ump's in position, if he squats down, bam, they can make a call on him. They can kick him out. Like what?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
so many little, and I didn't know these things either. It's just kind of like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I just use that as a reference because, like a lot of these judges, they're all on the same page, whether we're on their page or not.
Right.
Whether we know what they're talking about or not does not matter because they are the judges. And once you're in there, it's in the judge's hands.
100%. It's fine. That's fine right there.
And so when you're writing you're writing your contract with them saying this is what this dog is. And this is what it has to be. This is the size, the shape, the color, everything. This is the standard.
Yes.
And so you have to write it in the terms that they're going to be using. I see what you're getting at with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so once I got digested all that, then I was okay with it. And it made good sense to me,
Mm-hmm.
And so this is our goal. Our goal is, and we have a breed club. That's the Heritage American Bulldog Club, and so we're not the people yet that are. We don't know if we'll wind up being the breed club or not. I think we will because we're the ones doing it, right? But there's rules to the game, and you know this when you go in, okay? And so, but whatever the breed club is, ultimately, when they're fully recognized, the standard can only be tweaked every 5 years. Okay, Willow, lay down. Every 5 years is all you can do anything to that standard. Okay, and your club has to agree, and you have to have a vote on it and all that. Our goal is because you got a working Labrador and you got a show Labrador. I'm just using that as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We don't want a show bulldog and a working bulldog.
Amen.
We want the show dog and the working dog to be the same dog standing in the ring, or you pull him out of that ring and drop him in the woods. We want that to be what the standard reflects, and it is one dog, not two different types of deals.
Because that's where the divide comes through with a lot of dog owners and hunters. And then that's also where the divide comes through of where you say, well, these guys are breeding up junk because it's just show dog, Well, if you have show lines like Airedales, let's just take Airedales. Most everybody's familiar with the Airedale, especially guys our age and older. They know that the old school Airedales were some bad dudes.
And, they'll catch a hog in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Yes, and they're still out there. They're still there. But as far as through the registries and stuff or registrar, it's few and far between that will really shine in the woods because they have been kind of, like you said, they've been tweaked to fit a certain format. And that's not the dog's fault. And it's not the registry's fault either. Like you said, we were talking about a while ago, it's not the registry.
Yep.
It's the breeders.
Yep. It's us, buddy.
That's it. 100%.
Yeah. If you can't man up and accept that, then
you don't need it.
You don't. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. You got to man up and own what you do, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the goal. Yeah. And we, for the club to be successful, we have to have 100 people in the club, which we're probably the biggest AKC breeder out there at the present time.
Yes, sir.
And but these are all straight working dogs that are going in there. I mean, everything that's like Gabe Harris, the one that got Harrison, the guy that got us hooked up together. He's went and he's got a few bulldog puppies from here because I mean periodically I like to every 2 or 3 years I like to try some dogs, make sure they're still going to be got it. I mean just because I'm breeding working dogs to working dogs, it's always done it. Will they still do it?
There you go.
Okay,
you got to check.
And so we got to check them. You got to check, and so we put them out there. And as of this point, now this will be a fresh batch of puppies that he's got over there. And he seems like a really good guy. I mean, a young fella like him, man. He seems on top of his game. And so I'm going to put them out there and see what happens. And but at this point, every time I've ever done it, I have not had a dog fail to do his job, to catch, you know, and everything. But I don't know, buddy. That's what we're doing. I mean, everybody's got an opinion about things, and I mean, we're in the bulldog community. We got some people pulling in our corner, but we got a lot of people pulling against us too. They don't.
Understand.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it depends on who you're talking to. Some people will tell you we got the best thing going on around here since sliced bread, and then the rest of them will tell you that all this is old burnt up toast.
Well, the proof's in the pudding. If you could take that dog out of that show ring and put him in the woods and he performs, well,
yes.
I'll take that loaf of white bread.
yes. And see that, and I actually had that happen several years ago. Dog's gone now. But a dog by the name of Jack, he was probably I don't know how old he was, 2 or 3 years old. I brought him out of the show ring, had to go run down below the house here, and I had him and another and a bitch up on the truck, a younger bitch. And I met the boy down there at they were chopping with a skidder. Mm-hmm. Okay, you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Big chopper. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so they were chopping, and I said, I pulled up in there. I forget what I had to do. Anyway, I was talking to him, and the dogs was getting kind of hot. It was February, but it was hot. And I said, buddy, can I let these dogs down right here? He said, well, the man don't want nobody to be messing with nothing to mess with his wildlife. I said, these dogs, they have never seen nothing. So I put them on the ground, and they went out there and got wallowed down the hole, and he'd been chopping there since daylight, right? And a big tract, I mean, probably 150, 200 acres in that site right there. Mm. And he said, no, I hadn't seen, I said, you seen anything come through? He said, no, I hadn't seen nothing. So we let them down. They went over there, and that was the last day of the show and stuff anyway. So they got over there, and then they got down in the mud and the water, and they were cooling off, rolling around, wrestling each other. Well, old Jack, he came up out of the hole, and he started across that clear cut where the boy was shopping. And the boy looked at me, and he said, Bruce, he said, I believe that dog's on something. I said, nah, he don't know to do nothing. Yeah, I mean, he's an older dog. He hadn't been nothing. He said, okay. And the dog kept going. And the bitch, she turned and she came back because she was just 8 or 10 months old anyway, if that. So she came on back. And so all of a sudden, the dog kept going. And the boy said, well, we better get down there. And we jumped in the truck, ran down there. And Jack had went in there, and then they had took that heavy edge I was telling you about. They'd chopped it. It was cleaned all the way to the swamp. You could look in there. Look, had that little short green grass growing up under the swamp out there. It looked like a golf course.
That's right.
And he went in there, and he had him about 120, 30-pound boar hog caught right out there. The dog had never seen a hog in his whole life. He tracked that hog and caught him down there.
Yeah, that's all I'm talking about right there now.
Yeah. So, it is what it is. But so I don't know. That's just different things. I haven't had them fail yet, and I hope that don't happen in my lifetime. Not what I got breeding here.
Yeah, it sounds like you definitely got a good program, and you're on the right track. And with all the things that you're putting into it, you reap what you sow, and you're putting all the right things in there. So theoretically, you should get all the right things out of it. But we really appreciate you jumping on here with us tonight. We got a couple hours in on this thing.
Sounds good.
If you if you got anything you would like to add to it, you can feel free to continue on. And if you have any pups or anything like that, like if you want to advertise or something like that with us, just let us know. Okay. And we know a few old boys that would be interested, I'm sure.
Okay, that sounds good.
And they'll definitely put them where they need to be.
Oh yeah. And we guarantee them for a year to they're a year old for health. So I mean, of course, I mean, if you get run over by a truck, that's not our problem. But
you can't afford to buy a new truck anyway, huh?
Right,
that truck.
All right,
all right, buddy. I appreciate you again, man. Thank you, Mr. Bruce.
Yes, sir. You too, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right. See you.
Yep.
Well, that was pretty cool there. That he has got a lot of stuff going with them dogs, man. Mm-hmm. Like I'm talking about, I think he walked outside when he was going over through the whole thing where AKC has accepted them for foundation stock for the American Bulldogs. I mean, like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that was a good one there. Everybody likes to hear stuff about good bulldogs. And we don't ever really hear a whole lot about good American bulldogs. I've seen a few, and I've seen some that were just absolute machines, and just don't seem to be like there's a lot of them out there. So maybe this is a turning point. Maybe some of you guys out there, y'all listen to this, y'all get with Mr. Bruce Huffmaster, and he might get y'all a puppy lined up and put y'all some heat in the box. So, hey, we appreciate y'all listening. And, we say it every time, and we're going to keep on saying it every time. Without y'all, we can't do this. We really appreciate it. We thank all our sponsors. We thank all our listeners. Y'all make sure to, y'all stay up with us. Make sure to go check out our Patreon account, where we're putting up more stuff there all the time. There might be some new exciting stuff coming out with that. I'm going to let out the bag here in a few days or so. We'll get back with y'all on that. And until the next time, we'll see y'all.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that episode. If there's anything or anyone you'd like to hear on the podcast, or if you'd like to come hunt with us, don't hesitate to contact us at dixiedoggers01@gmail.com.